Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Williams versus Harris. Mr. Williams, you are suing the Harrises for medical bills, pain, and suffering for injuries you suffered when a garage door at their house came down and crashed on your head and hurt your neck. You are suing for $300,000 for your medical bills and $125,000 for pain and suffering for a total of $425,000. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. and Mrs. Harris, you all believe that this is his fault.
Yes, Your Honor.
Absolutely.
And his injuries, his bills, they're all for him to handle.
Yes, Your Honor.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, Mr. Harris, how did you come to be at this house?
Basically, it all started, Your Honor, as when I was younger. I was around 7 years old. My mother raised 5 kids. I was the only boy, and I really didn't have any friends. When I met Mr. Harris, when I was in school, we just connected. You know, I was
So you guys are lifelong friends?
Yes, sir. I was a class clown in school, and he was too. So we just made, you know, just connection. It was over after that.
2 clowns getting down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we were close all through middle school, high schools. I was at his wedding. He was at my wedding. He was my best man at my wedding.
He was the best man in your wedding?
Yes, sir.
That's pretty special.
Yes, it is. Now, we played football together, and, you know, on a football team, he was better to me. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I looked up to him.
Some of my best friends in my life I've made on the football field from 5th, 6th, 7th grade.
Yes, sir.
So I understand that friendship. So you all played football together, you grew up together. You're friends up until this incident.
Yes. And
What led you to be at their house this day?
basically, I was married for 10 years, Judge.
Yes, sir.
And
I was married for 21.
so you know how hard it can be, you know, just being married in general, you know?
Well, marriage is work, but rewarding work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I've been divorced now for 3 months, and it's been a struggle for me. Mr. Harris has been there for me, and he told me that he had a townhouse, you know, back in our hometown that I can pretty much stay there.
So your man was trying to help you out?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. So, you know, it says me to even really be here today. You know, I have so much love for Mr. Harris, and I still do. It's just...
You heard that, Mr. Harris, didn't you?
I
He
hear
still
it.
got love for you, man.
I hear it, but...
Do you feel the love?
And here we are. I've always had his back. It's something we learned. We
today,
grew up
though.
learning. You know, got your back on and off the
So
field.
you always had his back.
So after his divorce, I had his back, as I always do. I always come through for him.
You were there to help him through these tough times.
From grade school till now, and here we are. So,
Not
you
now.
know, I wanted to help my brother out. He coming back home. He needed a house to be in. I talked to my wife. We agreed to let him in, and sure enough, it comes back to backfire in my face.
No good deed goes unpunished.
No
huh?
good deed goes unpunished.
So you do see that, though. Your man is trying to help you out.
Yes, sir. I wish I wasn't here today, Judge.
So tell me what happened. I mean, you're in a neck brace. You look like you are in a lot of pain.
I'm extremely...
What happened that got you here?
I basically was in the garage, Judge, and I was going to the store. I heard a noise from the top of the garage. I look up, and I noticed that the garage door was starting to come down a little bit. So my instincts kicked in. You know, get out of here, survival mode. So I sprint out.
What position did you play in
I
football?
played running back.
Your running back instincts kicked in. Then what did the running back do?
I took off, and I was heading for the touchdown. But what happened was I got stopped by a linebacker. That was the garage door. It slammed down on top of my back. I mean, I've been hit by linebackers, 250 pounds, but it was nothing like this pain that I experienced, Judge. You know, it basically pinned me to the ground and the door.
So this door crashed on top of your neck.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It crashed from my upper back. I have a disc herniation from C4 to C6.
Now, y'all, this is your place, right? Your door. You own that door, right?
Raggedy one.
How did y'all know that this happened?
Your Honor,
How'd you find out?
We didn't know about this incident until Roger was in the hospital.
I imagine that given that he's a good friend, you all were really concerned for him.
I was
Exactly.
extremely concerned.
Yes, Your
He's
Honor.
definitely my husband's good
lie.
friend.
She won't. She didn't care.
But I just wanted understanding.
You don't sound that cozy about him.
No, she don't like me, Judge.
Has it always been that way?
You know, me and my
She doesn't like
husband
it.
have been married for almost 10 years now, and we have a great partnership. We love each other. We
That's
have
great.
a respectable union.
That's great.
And we accept one another for who we are.
Yes, ma'am.
And unfortunately, that included Roger.
Well, you gotta take friends and family. You know that.
I endorse him.
That's
I
what
endorse
marriage
him.
is about.
We don't try to, put restrictions on one another or anything like that.
So you were
I-
saying that you all found out when he was in the hospital.
And when I found out, I was extremely concerned. This is my best friend that I'm hearing about seeing pictures in the hospital and phone calls from the hospital.
And he's hurt on your property.
We do own the property. However, like he mentioned before, he signed over a lease.
He ran under the door, Your Honor. But I just want to know what adult man would run under a garage door.
A former running back who still thinks he got it.
Who still thinks he got it.
I still got it though. Just before this, I was.
You got
still
Well,
Back
apparently
grease,
you
sir.
didn't still have it because the garage door tackled you, right?
Well,
Tell me this. If he's not gonna try to slide across the goal line of this garage door, how's he gonna get out of the garage?
There are multiple ways, Your Honor.
Tell me.
There is
Normal people.
like
Normal people-
a regular
normal people do
responsible
run a-
adult
run
would
a-
use a
under the
side
garage.
door, which he has key access to.
So you knew there was a side door. True?
true.
I mean, you'd lived there for a little while. You
true.
weren't blind, right?
True.
Or there's also a keypad.
A working keypad?
A working
Not a working keypad.
that he had the code to, that at the time of him moving in, we even switched over to his own personal code.
Showed him how to work it.
Showed him how to work
So,
it.
Mr. Williams, you had a keypad and you knew how to work it, and it worked the garage door, right?
It did not work, Judge.
Did you tell him it didn't work?
I told him. I got evidence, Judge.
So when he says it didn't work, then he's only got one way to get out, and that's the side door, right?
Well, I forgot the code.
And he forgot the code.
That's why it didn't work, Your Honor.
It worked when we
didn't
signed
work
the
because
note.
he.
So you forgot the code.
I will say this, Judge. I forgot the code, but it's survival mode. When you see something, you gotta go. So,
goodness.
yeah, I forgot the code.
So running out of the garage was survival mode?
Correct. I had to get out of
Couldn't
it.
you have just gone out of the side door?
Thank you, Your Honor.
But, Judge, if the garage door would have been working properly when I moved in,
You would have scored.
scored all day. Touchdown.
Now, Mr. Williams, I see that you have incurred $300,000 in medical bills.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of money.
I'm in a lot of pain.
Tell me what you've been through.
Basically, you know, I've been injured at the disc herniation from C4 to C6, upper part of my back.
Yes, sir.
It's changed my life completely. It aches and throbs every day. It's in pain right now.
To further understand the nature and severity of your injuries, Mr. Williams, I've invited Dr. Karen Flood to come and explain from a medical perspective what you're going through. Dr. Flood, would you stand and step to the monitor and tell me what this is from a medical perspective? Doctor, can you explain the extent of the plaintiff's injuries, of Mr. Williams' injuries?
Yes, Your Honor. When the garage door struck the claimant in the back of the neck, it caused him injury to his cervical spine. This is an image of the cervical spine, the bones of the neck. They line up like little boxes. Between each of those is the disc, and this cushions each of those little vertebral bodies and allows you, as you bend your neck forward and backwards, to absorb some of that shock. In his case, he damaged these discs at a couple different levels. That comes out and pushes on all the nerves that go out to the rest of your body.
So how do you repair such a thing?
Well, in this case, you actually need to take out that damaged disc. I've got a video for that.
Surgery.
Yes, surgery.
You see what y'all
So,
did to
Doc,
me?
Doc, explain what this
garage.
this depicts.
So this depicts taking the disc out from between those vertebral bodies, between those boxes of bone, putting a spacer of bone in between those.
I ain't
You
gonna
can
never
either
be the
take those
same.
from your own hip or from a donor, and then you're going to put a plate on the front and screw in a series of screws to hold that plate in place to allow this to fuse into one piece of bone to support those nerves and help prevent from further damage.
So what's his prognosis after this hardware is put in?
Well, it depends how bad it is. Because of the pressure on the nerves, you can get damage that causes numbness into your hands, you can get weakness of your arms, you can get some chronic pain that can be persistent even after surgery. And of course, you'll have some stiffness of your neck.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Williams, what numbness, things in your arms, you experiencing any of that?
Numbness, sharpness, tightness.
Is this every day?
Every day.
Y'all see he's in some agony, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you wouldn't want that to happen to your buddy or simply just a tenant.
Anyone.
You're right, Your Honor.
But you believe it's his fault.
Absolutely, Your
Yes, sir.
Honor.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Harris, you all said that you had Mr. Williams sign a lease.
Yes,
that
Your
you
Honor.
signed
Absolutely.
to formalize this relationship.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you bring that lease with you?
Absolutely.
Sheriff Matt, will you retrieve that lease?
I have it right here.
Now, Mr. Williams, you remember signing a lease, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
I see here on item number 17, tenant is responsible for lawn, trash, windows, garage, air conditioning, lavatories, sinks, toilets, glass, and doors.
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Williams, you understood that you had certain responsibilities to maintain the property.
Yes, Your Honor. But,
So why didn't you get this garage door fixed?
well, Your Honor, I did send Mr. Harris a text telling him about the code of the garage door wasn't working.
Did you get that text?
I did. I even responded.
And I
Your
told
Honor.
him I couldn't pay.
Now, even though this is your responsibility, you wanted him to pay for it.
I didn't have the money. I told him I couldn't pay. He agreed to it. I have something to.
Well,
Once again, Your Honor, here
Let's
I am
take a look
bailing
at
him out.
the text. Let's take a look at the text that you submitted to the court. Mr. Harris, you're in the red, right?
Yes, sir.
And you wrote, how much are you able to pay for the garage door, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You expected him to pay something.
As per the
As he agreed. Yes. Your
Okay,
Honor.
now in the gray it says, after all I've been through, I cannot afford it right now. That's what you wrote, Mr. Williams.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then in response, Mr. Harris, you said, okay, I got it. What did you mean by that?
I just meant I understood him, Your Honor. I know what he's going through. I feel like I'm his friend. I try to bail him out and take care of him as much as I can. So when I said, okay, I got it, I mean, I understand what
What
you're
did
going
you think
through.
he meant?
I got it covered. That's what it says.
So you thought he was gonna pay for
I
it?
mean, yes. Yes, Your Honor.
I think he's just used to me taking care of him.
That meant that
Your Honor,
we
he
weren't
saw
going to
you-
pressure you into
Now, Mr.
trying
Harris,
to fix it.
Mr. and Mrs. Harris, here's the legal lesson in this case. When you all sign a lease, a written lease, as the law requires you to do when you lease a place, you all got into a contractual relationship. This is a binding legal agreement where both of you have responsibilities to each other to make sure that this works out right. You were responsible to take care of the property. You were responsible to pay for this door. I know that you had texted Mr. Harris about paying for the door because you couldn't. Y'all, you were very specific in the lease, but real unclear as to what was going to happen with the door. You see that in hindsight, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So both of you all knew that the garage door was kind of ragged, right?
Yes, Your
But
Honor.
the lease determines your legal responsibilities, and we cannot lose sight of that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Gentlemen, Mrs. Harris, I think that I have heard enough, and I am ready to render my decision. Mr. Williams, from the evidence that you presented today, you've suffered an incredible life-altering injury. Now, I understand your friend is doing a good job for you. You had those running back kind of reminiscence about getting under the garage door, and you tried to make it, and it did not work out. You also thought from that text that Mr. Harris was going to fix the door. So the evidence indicates that you kind of assumed that the door was okay. Unfortunately, the move you made left you on the garage floor with the door on the back of your neck. You all did him a great favor in allowing him to stay at your home, provided, as provided in the lease, that he did some repairs and kind of took care of it. You gave him a break, he gives you a break. Y'all had no idea that he was going to be injured like this. The reality is, though, that the law requires that everyone be responsible for what they contractually agreed to. In a personal injury case, there are three things that must be proven. You, Mr. Williams, have to prove that the Harrises were wrong and that their wrong caused your injuries. Clearly, you were injured because of that garage door. But the wrong is what is ticklish for me. Here, you had some choices about going under the door. Mrs. Harris, you made the point that he could have gone out the side door, and you could have. That would have been reasonable and safe. You all, on the other hand, you knew that this door was in bad shape. You also kind of knew he didn't have the money to fix the door. He's in the midst of a divorce. I find here that there was wrong, but it was shared. That is, you took a chance that you had to pay a price, a dear price, a terrible price. You all did not have your property in good shape, and therefore you're both wrong. But I do not find, Mr. Williams, that you are 50% wrong. I find you 49% wrong. And in that regard, I'm going to reduce your claim. In this case, you are asking for $425,000. In reducing your award by 49%, I award you $216,750 against the Harrises.
What?
That is my final decision, and this matter is adjourned.
Thank you, Judge.
Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Chad Dudley has to say.
There's an interesting aspect to this case. Even though Mr. Williams was friends with the plaintiff, he still required him to sign a lease that memorialized the terms of the rent and the obligations and responsibilities of both parties. This is always the wise thing to do, especially when the act is between family members or friends. Legally protect yourself just as you would with strangers.
You know this is your fault. Irresponsible.
This is Personal Injury Court.
Good day, everyone. This is the matter of Madison versus Connor. Mr. and Mrs. Madison, it's my understanding that you, Mr. Madison, sustained severe injuries to your eye when a pitchfork destroyed it at an event on Mr. Connor's farm. It's my understanding that you are seeking past medical expenses of $600,000, future medical expenses of $300,000, and pain and suffering for $1.1 million for a total award of $2 million. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Connor, your position in this case is that he knew what was going on. This is a freak accident that's not really anybody's fault, but certainly not yours.
That's correct. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, well, let's get into the legal sauce. Now, you all used to be buddies, right? How long have y'all known each other?
Well, we met back in college, Your Honor, and we used to hang out all the time. We had many conversations, and one of those led to charity, and that's how we came up with the idea to enter into the Barnyard games.
Now, Barnyard games, what are Barnyard games?
We modeled this around anything you might find laying around a barnyard.
Okay.
And we tried to come up with interesting activities to do with those tools. For instance, rake relay and the garden shear toss and pitch ball.
You all are throwing tools around?
Yes.
Okay. And you said it's a charity event. Who's the charity for?
It's for underprivileged kids.
Okay, that's a good thing.
Each donor that comes in, they pay a flat fee.
Okay.
To enter the games, and then 75% goes to the charity, and we keep 25%.
And Mr. Connor, you remember these Barnyard games that you and Mr. Madison came up with?
I thought the charity was a great idea. I mean, it always gets back to kids like I grew up. I didn't have a whole lot growing up, and that's what made us come up with it, but I agreed to host it, and it was on my grandfather's land. He's got 100 acres. It's perfect for this kind of event.
This your grandfather's farm?
It is. I grew up there. I've had a lot of fun there as a child.
So tell me what happened on the day you got injured.
On the day of the event, a large crowd gathered around the pitch ball field.
And by pitch ball, what do you mean?
Okay, so pitch ball is exactly like baseball, except you use a pitchfork as a bat and a soccer ball as the baseball.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what happened?
On the day of the event, the crowd gathered. They were excited for the game. We started playing. I started pitching the first few pitches. And the defendant here swung at one of those pitches and smacked the ball. The pitchfork vibrated in a way that I had not heard before. It made a metal on wood sound that it just didn't sound good. We continued on after I warned him to take it easy again, the second time with him swinging with all his might like he was going for a home run hit or something. So then that's when the pitchfork actually broke on impact.
And then what happens to you?
And then I see the end of the pitchfork flying towards my face, and it made impact. I felt the bone crush on impact. I felt the piece of metal slide into my eye socket.
Michael, I said I was sorry, and I've tried to help.
Now,
tried to
Mr.
help.
Connor, you saw this. You saw your buddy get hit in the face with a pitchfork.
Yes, I did, and it scared me to death. I thought I killed him. I ran to him immediately. I hollered for them to call 911. I did what I could.
Mr. Madison, you remember him being concerned about you?
Your Honor, I was in unbearable pain. I didn't know who was screaming. I was bleeding. I couldn't see out of my right eye.
Your Honor, there was a conversation prior to the games that day where we had noticed that some of the equipment was older, and the defendant had said that he was going to replace the pitchfork.
And you were there for that conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I overheard the whole thing.
Look, I did say I was going to replace it, and I did forget. But I also said that we did not have to play this game. There was other games that we could have played, and I did tell him We could skip it.
So Mr. Madison talked about this sound when you swung the pitchfork and hit the ball. Did you hear that sound?
I mean, it scared me to death because the time broke off and it flew into his eye. And
So Mr. Madison, he hears the crack, you hear the crack. Why didn't y'all just stop?
Because we had everyone out there, sir, and he had already agreed to take it easy before the game even started.
Okay, so
I reminded
Mrs.
him.
Madison, you remember him saying, "I'll take it easy"?
Yeah, I absolutely overheard my husband tell him to take it easy, and he said that he would, but he was too busy trying to impress some girl that was in the audience.
I wasn't.
Well, Mrs. Madison, do you remember Mr. Connor coming to care after his friend?
Honestly, I was in such a state of shock seeing my husband collapse on the ground. I thought my husband was dead on the ground
This is
in
a
front of
freak
me.
accident. I did not hurt nobody on purpose.
This wasn't a freak
I wouldn't wish
accident.
this on my worst enemy. This was not.
So you were
could have
frightened too.
replaced it.
When you saw the pitchfork hit Mr. Madison in the face, you were frightened.
I thought I killed him. The ball was coming towards me. He threw it. He was smiling. I was smiling. Everybody's having a good time. He threw the ball, and I swung. And as soon as it made contact, I felt the pop. I heard it. And immediately after I heard everybody scream, it just happened so fast. And it scared me to death. And I ran to him. I didn't know if I killed him or not. I didn't know what happened.
So when you swing, that pitchfork comes off the end, it comes flying and hits him in the face. You're at home plate watching this.
Yes.
So then you run to his
I
aid.
ran straight to him and I screamed out. I told him, I said, call 911.
Now you got a pitchfork here. Was it that kind of pitchfork that you were swinging?
It was.
On the plasma here, we got a picture of what looks like the pitchfork. Is that what hit you in the eye, Mr. Madison?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that your blood on that pillow there?
Yes, Your Honor.
Next, we have an x-ray. This is your head?
Yes, Your Honor.
So this pitchfork destroyed your eye.
I have lost my eye, Your Honor.
That x-ray could make you pretty nauseous, I imagine. Does for me. I can't imagine the pain. Mrs. Madison, I see you cringing. What was going through your mind when your husband's lying there with this pitchfork sticking in his eye?
Well, my first thought was I didn't even know if he was alive or dead. You can see the length of that. I don't know if it's just in his eye, if it's gone all the way through his skull. I have no idea.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, could you even imagine seeing your husband laying on the ground in front of you? For all I knew, I could be at his funeral today instead of
Yes,
here in
ma'am.
court.
Look, we was all at risk when we played, though, and I tried to help him.
No one would have been
stuck
at
by
risk
his
if you
side.
hadn't
How
tried
did you try to help him?
I did everything I could. I worked and tried to give cash towards the family to help them with the expenses. I did what I could
Mr.
to
Connor,
try to
this
help.
sounds like this breaks your heart too.
He's my best friend. We've been through so much together.
This is truly a tragedy.
This
Truly
is
a
not
tragedy.
my fault.
If he was
It was
your best-
his idea the whole time.
Did you know, Mr. Connor, that this pitchfork was bad?
I did, and I told him I would replace it. But I also told him I forgot, and I told him that we could play anything else. What he went to was this is his moneymaker, and he kept repeating that. He wanted to play for greed.
So, Mr. Madison, if you knew that the pitchfork was concerning, why did you continue?
Because he had agreed to take it easy. Because he had failed to get the new pitchfork.
And did you take it easy?
I was playing to win, but it
He wasn't playing to win. He was playing to impress a girl from the audience.
I was not impressed.
Well, listen, guys, that touches me. We men have gotten to a lot of difficult spots trying to impress a woman, okay? Miss Madison, you saw this swing. How do you characterize
You
it?
would think he was trying to hit it out of Fenway Park. You would think he was playing professional
I
baseball.
was playing for my charity.
It's for charity. People had already paid to be there. They weren't going to pay more just because he hit it harder.
At the last Barnyard games, there's not really a winner other than the kids, right?
Exactly.
How much did you all raise in the first Barnyard game? See,
370,000.
that's real. Congratulations to both of you for doing such a good thing. I've been a Santa for 20 years. Beard, makeup, everything. The kids think I'm a superstar, but I get more out of it than they do. So giving back is very important. Mr. Madison, you have asked this court to award you $600,000 for past medical expenses and $300,000 for future medical expenses. I want to get the doctor in to tell us about your injuries and what we're looking at. So let's get Dr. Neelam Vaughn in.
All right, yes, sir.
Good day, doctor. How are you?
I'm well. How about yourself?
Could you state your name for the record?
Dr. Neelam Vaughn.
Doctor, describe the nature and extent of Mr. Madison's injuries.
Well, first, he suffered a traumatic brain injury, but not one where you can't walk or talk or do for yourself, but one where it basically stunned his brain, like a concussion. And secondly, he ruptured his globe of his eye, so he totally lost his vision and has had the eye removed. You can see how close that pitchfork is all the way here, and your brain is just right there.
What are the long-term effects, Doc?
Well, there's retraining yourself how to drive, how to walk. There's intimacy issues between he and his wife, and just socially going about with one eye missing, it really does affect you.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate you.
My
You are
pleasure.
released.
Thank you.
Mrs. Madison, an injury to a husband is an injury to a family. Tell me how this has been for you as the chief of the family, caring for your husband.
It's been a nightmare. I mean, since day one, obviously he's very disfigured. But it's not just the physical parts. Obviously, she said, there's balance issues, there's the fact that he can't do the things that he loves to do anymore. But really, the mental side effects of that are so much worse. He's depressed. He doesn't want to leave the house except to go to doctor's appointments.
I offered for us to reschedule and postpone it. Until we could have got another pitchfork. I offered for us to play anything else.
This whole thing could have been avoided.
Exactly, and he pushed and pushed. This is his moneymaker.
Anything,
Mr. Madison, were you pushing to get this done this day?
Not at all. He had months to get this new equipment. He had months to get the new equipment.
But on the day of the swing, did you push him despite hearing this pitchfork?
I did not push him.
Sound?
The only thing I said is I will agree to play if you agree to take it easy because you're using an old pitchfork. Like I was saying, he had months to get the new equipment, and he failed to do so. And then on the day of the event, after we have hundreds, almost 1,000 donors there, then he tells me he don't have the right equipment.
So this happens in front of the donors with hundreds of people there?
Yes. After we sent out flyers and posted on social media about this, then he tells me that he failed to do the one job that I gave him.
Your Honor, there is only one person at fault here, and it's the defendant for his recklessness.
Y'all could have stopped this, right?
Exactly.
When you heard the pitchfork make the sound.
He was
True?
the one who swung it. It was not in anyone else's hands.
But before he swung it, you all could have said, hold on, that made a weird sound, right?
We did say
We
that.
did, and we stopped him.
And Mr. Connor, frankly, you heard the sound too. You could have stopped
said
it.
that we could play any other game. This is what he wanted to play. He kept saying it's his money maker. That came out of his mouth. That was his word. I was here for the charity. I was here for the children. He was here for the greed and the money. That is what got him hurt.
That is a
He's
desperate
a victim
plea.
of his own greed.
That is a desperate plea from a guilty
man. I
man.
could be on the other side of this.
I know it's important to you. I can see it on your face. Mr. Madison, Mrs. Madison, you all are asking this court for $1.1 million for pain and suffering.
Yes.
Tell me about that experience. That's a lot of money.
From the day that it happened, it's been nothing but trauma. Not just physically, but emotionally. I mean, my wife doesn't even look at me the same anymore.
Your Honor, our entire lives have changed because of this. This is not just medical injuries. He's going to have these for the rest of his life. We were talking about kids, and now that's not even a concern right now.
What's your daily experience like with having one eye?
I can't balance. She has to walk me from place to place. I reach for things and I miss them. Like as simple as reaching for a cup of coffee and I'm a foot off. And then looking in a mirror and seeing a nasty, empty hole where I used to have a nice eye.
And you blame your best friend for this?
Yes.
How about you
His
ask me about the
negligence
help I have
is what got us
provided
here.
Since he's been hurt.
Tell me about the help you provided to your friend.
I have given money to help with bills since he currently can't work. If he needs errands ran, I try to help.
It sounds like he's trying to make a good case for you, Your
Yeah.
Honor.
A few $100s towards bills. We have $600,000 so far.
Accident.
Mrs. Madison, think about this. What's the biggest change in your husband since he lost his eye?
Probably his confidence.
Every personal injury case, the plaintiff has to prove three things. The plaintiff has to prove that the defendant was wrong and that the defendant's wrong caused your harm. This was an event that should not have had y'all meet me today. You all thought that swinging the pitchfork was going to be a safe thing, despite the cracking sound, you thought he was going to take it easy. Even though he told you that he was going to replace it, you knew he didn't replace it. But if he took it easy, this would go fine. Instead, what you all have said is he swung too hard and the top of this pitchfork came off and destroyed your eye and changed your life forever. Mr. Connor, your heart was in the right place. You were concerned about this pitchfork, but not such that you thought it would harm your best friend. I know you didn't intend this. You did this event with Mr. Madison before. You all as buddies have done a great thing. You were playing just like you had played before. But the law does not require people to intend the results of an act. What the law requires is that no one suspend their common sense and that you intend to do the act which causes harm. If that act is reckless, then despite your heart, your relationship, your feelings, the law would hold you responsible. You had the last act in the chain of events that caused this injury. Because you swung too hard, I must find against you. I find in favor of the plaintiffs, and I'm going to award you $600,000 for past medical expenses, $300,000 for future medical expenses, and $1.1 million for pain and suffering, for a total award of $2 million. That is my final verdict, and this matter is adjourned. Our attorneys across America just viewed this case for the first time. Let's hear what Hoyt Tessner has to say.
Two key facts turned this case for the plaintiff. First, as the pitcher, he assumed only the risk of the defendant hitting him with a soccer ball. There was no way for him to anticipate that the batter would swing hard enough to break the pitchfork. Also, Mr. Connor had promised to replace the old pitchfork and get a new one for this event. Mr. Connor failed to do so. The plaintiff got forked.